Good morning, everybody. Welcome into your next chapter, buying and selling real estate here in Northern Indiana with Stacie Schlichtenmyer. And we're going to go off the beaten path this morning. We're going to talk just about, where we're at here in summer, or I guess we're not quite technically in the calendar summer, but it sure feels like it out there. And Stacie, you've been very busy this morning. You just jumped to Kendallville and back. So you're all over Northern Indiana, taking care of people, buying and selling homes, doing different things. But how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. The sun is shining. It's Friday, and I've been able to ski this week, so it's a good week.
Yeah, I've seen some posts on Facebook and whatnot. The water's finally warming up, which is a good thing.
Yes.
A lot of people are taking advantage of that in the lakes, and we're going to kind of talk about the lakes just a little bit. We're gonna go into that market just to kind of ask you how things are going. But the biggest thing, I just want to say, what's going on in Kosciusko County? What's kind of going on in the area? We've just gotten out of the month of May, so I feel like the stereotypical big rush to buy and sell a home in the springtime, school's getting out. Now we're in the month of June. Where's the market at right now? Let's just talk about the market today. Let's talk about buying, selling, every little bit of thing, just to kind of give everybody kind of a good current update on where things are at.
Okay, yeah, so the market is definitely hot in Kosciusko County. I was just taking a look. We have just over 2 months of inventory. And so what that means is, say no other homes were put on the market, it would take 2 months to sell every house that is currently listed. And so what does that mean really is a balanced market is between like 4 and 5 months. So that number tells us that it still very much is a seller's market. At the same time, we are seeing more inventory than we did at this time last year. So things are very hot still, but they're the hottest, right, when we have homes that are priced competitively and are move-in ready, because that's what people are wanting.
And I guess, where do we want to start there in your assessment with, it's the time that you typically see that spike in the buying and selling process, but do you feel like homes are priced pretty competitive, or maybe are there more interest rate programs out there that people are taking advantage of compared to last year to this year? What are some of those trends maybe you're seeing within that market?
So what we know right now is that there are less first-time home buyers in the market than there historically have been. And so that's from NAR research. We have quite a bit of data that's showing us that. And so there are a lot of reasons for that. It's very expensive to buy right now. So because of that, right, we just are seeing things a little bit differently. So who are our buyers? Most of the buyers right now are senior citizens. Like, they are the generation, the baby boomers, if you will. Part of that is because there's more of them than anybody else. And so often right now they're in a phase of life, so many of them, where things are changing. And so that's when people are usually buying and selling. You have a change of life. So historically, that buyer, we were seeing a lot more first timers. And so with that, you are seeing a lot more like down payment assistance, and you're seeing different types of programs to help people get into homes for the first time. Whereas now, I mean, you have a lot of seniors that are, whether they're downsizing and renting, or they're, right sizing, or they're buying somewhere else. Their needs are a little bit different, and often they may or may not be contingent, but a lot of times it's about their stuff, where they're going, what's next for them, as opposed to what are the incentives or how can we help them to get into a home. Inventory
is not, I won't say where I'm going to go with this. Inventory is still low historically, but you look back 20, 21, 22, we're well past kind of where the inventory was there. Still scarce, but what you said about the first-time home buyers, do you feel like it was because home prices were affordable for some time in 2020, 21, and the interest rates were so low? Is that when a lot of those first-time home buyers are maybe kind of taking advantage of the market, and now you're seeing them already settled, and that shift to kind of the baby boomer generation? Is that maybe a trend there, or
I think not? A lot of it has to do with macroeconomics. A lot of it has to do with our society as a whole. Consumer debt is at an all-time high. Everything is expensive, and so what that does is it outprices first timers, right? Our first time buyers are spending more money on everything else than they ever historically have been, and the wages are not going up. So there's less to go around, and yeah.
So when you do run into someone who's adamant on buying a home, maybe in that situation, what is kind of that conversation? What's that starter that you're kind of telling them, hey, we're going to get this done. We're going to find a way to get you in a home, but here's what we kind of have to maybe plan for in the next year, or how we get to you getting that home.
Sure. Yes. I have a buyer right now, first time home buyer. So excited to help her. She was trying to take advantage of the grant, down payment assistance grant for up to $20,000. She found out in the middle of that transaction that money was not available. And so obviously that's pretty devastating for people. And at that point you think like, oh, I'm going to be eligible to buy this house. And so I knew going in, and we talked about that going in, like those grants are great, but we always have to plan for the potential that that's not going to be available. And so whether, I'm planning for plan B, plan C. And so when that happened, it's like, okay, yeah, this is not ideal, but we already have a plan in place here. And so we were able to, work with the seller, work with the listing agent, and she's going to close next week, and she's going to get a brand new house. Could be more excited for her. As a first-time home buyer, she never thought she'd be able to do it, and the reason why she took the leap was because she thought she'd be able to use this grant money. And then obviously, like, things change, plans change, life happens, and so it's like, okay, well, how can we still make that happen for her? So
what's your advice to somebody who maybe is looking to buy a home? This is not even first time, second time, third time, and they kind of get demoralized by maybe a rate or something that they see, and they're just like, that's never going to happen.
Yeah, it's tough. I have a lot of people in my personal life that I don't realize, right? That sometimes that conversation will come up, and they'll just say like, I have a really low credit score, you know what I mean? Or like, I've had some credit issues in the past, or like, everything's so expensive, I have to put 20% down. And I think so often we hear those things. It is really hard not to, not to let it get to you, but to know that there are options available for everybody. And it really just depends on what your goals are. Like, is your goal to get into, a home? And if so, all right, we can just that's our goal. And now we're going to reverse engineer it, if you will. Like, what are the steps that it's going to take? So whether that's, okay, my credit's not there yet. Okay, well, let's get you connected with a lender that's going to be able to help you with some credit repair. They'll be able to give you some ideas or tips that you can do that will bring your credit score up quicker. And it's all of that. There's so much to it. We don't know what we don't know.
I feel like our generation too, we get kind of stuck in the short game. You want it now, you want it now, you want it now.
For sure.
But what you just talked about, finding some ways to maybe improve that credit score, realistically build out a plan. Don't get discouraged. I think my thought is, on the short term, look at the long term, and there's ways to make it happen.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So knowing the motivation, right? Knowing your client really well and what their goals are. So when someone's like, yes, I want to get into a house, that's great. But what about that? What does that mean? Because it does sometimes get really tough in the middle of a real estate transaction. And so again, I feel like my job is to help my client keep their eye on the prize, right? And so it is really hard sometimes to remove yourself from what's going on and everybody needs this and I don't know if I can do that, to but remember, once you get to that house, what's that going to be like for you and your daughter to be able to be in the house for the first time, right? And so all of this kind of uncomfortableness or the steps that we have to do to get there, it's just jumping alongside here, let's do it together. Problem shared is a problem cut in half, and then they get the keys.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're getting a chance to kind of talk about the market overall. You work a lot with the lakes. We haven't really talked about it too much. We've been doing a lot of kind of the groundwork of buying and selling a home. But being in Kosciusko County, you have to understand the lake environment and that ecosystem of buying and selling. What are you seeing right now on the lakes? It's warm out. That tells me that people are on the lake at the very least.
Yeah.
What are you seeing?
I'm seeing a lot of properties, a lot of lots, and a lot of information that needs to be verified, right? There is so much to buy in a lake property. And we as helping buyers, we have to do our due diligence, right? As listing agents, we have to do our due diligence. And sometimes there's so much legwork, especially when you're talking about lake properties, because access to water is exponentially important to people, and people pay a premium for that. And there are a lot of litigations, over our lakes. And so being a fiduciary, that's very important to me at the end of the day, that my buyer or seller is getting exactly what they intend. And there's just a lot of red tape. And so having good resources, knowing the market, knowing about the lake specifically, knowing about the associations, being familiar with that, because they are different. And, even as far as HOAs and rentals and how far the property extends even into the water. What are the easements? What about ingress, egress? There's so much that we don't potentially know. And so doing your due diligence is more important than ever on the lakes.
You were talking about a situation before we hopped on the mic where you were kind of double checking, triple checking certain things to make sure that your buyer knew exactly what they were getting. The seller knew exactly what was happening. And I think a unique thing to that is oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes someone who's buying a lake home probably already has bought a home before, their main property. It's a very different process. I had no clue. It was, you filled me on that. I had no clue about kind of some of those differences. But I feel like that's a really important thing to understand, because you might come, mine, I bought a home before, I bought 2 homes before, I've sold homes before. It's very different.
Yes, absolutely. And it's very situational. Generally, lake buyers are very situational. And so the needs are different. And then also knowing what that property does or how that property can perform. So, getting the survey, getting your title work, having good partners you can talk to about things, being able to figure out, is that buildable? Is it in a floodplain? Is there a wetland? What are the setbacks? There's so much homework that needs to be done in order to ensure that you're conveying the property and representing your client the best way.
That's why we use you. That's why we've got you.
Thank
Stacie.
you. Yes.
What's the best way for people to get in touch with you as we kind of close out our episode?
So you could call me 574-334-7105. You can also text me at that number. Also, my email address is lakecitystacie. So that's lakecitystacie, STACIE @kw.com. And you can come down and visit us at our location downtown Warsaw. We are off 212 South Buffalo Street. Check out the sidewalk chalk down there. We always have some going, so have some extra out there if you want to leave us a little note.
Yeah, might have to do that. I have to come down there and mark a big WRSW.
There you go. I'll know it was you.
Yeah, on the chalk. Any weekend plans? What are we doing? I know skiing is on the table at least now.
Yes, absolutely. We are going to be camping at Jellystone this weekend, so I'm pumped about that. I'm looking forward to the activities there.
Good weather. I think the humidity, knock on wood, here in the studio is going to back off a little bit. So that'll be a ton of fun. And Stacie, it's just so great to kind of get an overall market update, understand the nuances, maybe to position yourself as a buyer or seller in the best possible place to do whatever you would like to do. And of course, get a chance to talk about the lakes. That's Stacie Schlichtenmyer. I'm Balin Height. Your next chapter as we close out another episode here this weekend. We'll talk to you next. Cool.